Hey, deserving listeners, I'm going to watch The Bachelorette and react to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's get to the show.
I'll have to say goodbye to you.
In the past, I chose the jerks.
In the past, I chose the jerks. There's a lot of different reasons why someone would say something like that. Hopefully we'll get more data to help us hypothesize as to what led up to that. It could just be that she just had bad luck. It could be the part of her personality that attracts the jerks, or that attracts her to the jerks, or clouds her judgment. Or she just frames past relationships as jerks, where outside observers would just say something different. Or there's a lot of jerks in the world. Who knows? Let's continue watching.
Tell me exactly how you felt.
Do you know how I feel?
Does it matter to me?
Okay.
All right, so what we're seeing here is that she was on a previous season of The Bachelor, and now they're giving her her own show. That's great.
I would never want my children having a father like you.
Okay.
All right, so we just learned that she has children as well. I'm always interested in that data.
I'm ready to leave. My bags are packed and the driver's here.
All right, so we just learned that she was on another season of The Bachelor in Paradise. She also did not get picked on this season as well.
Like I genuinely came here for love.
Okay, so she's on a third season, and I'm guessing it didn't work out there too. I've never watched The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. I watched one season because y'all asked me to watch it earlier this year. It was the musician version. Tell Me About Your Heart. I forget that one. So I have a little bit of experience with it. But aside from that, I have never watched any show, and I know a lot of people love this show. But as I've said from the beginning of watching these shows, I didn't watch reality TV really until y'all started asking me to earlier this year. I remember watching Real World back in the day, the first couple seasons on MTV in the mid-90s. Aside from that, I don't think I've watched much reality TV. I did watch Rock of Love Season 2 because a friend of mine was watching it, so I watched it with her. But anyway, let's continue watching.
I want a man who will be open and emotional and won't put up the walls.
All right, so we just heard that she wants a man who is open emotionally and won't put up the walls. I'm guessing that she's basing that on previous experience. Who knows? Let's continue watching.
And this time, I'm gonna follow my gut.
All right, we just heard another thing that she said is that she is going to follow her gut. Does that mean she didn't follow her gut in the past? Who knows? The gut is a complicated thing. Sometimes it leads us in the right direction. Sometimes it does not, depending on what we mean by the gut. But maybe we'll learn more about that. Let's continue watching.
That girl that got out of the limo days, weeks earlier, I had just gotten out of a really abusive relationship.
All right, more data. She's saying that just before going on the first season that she was on The Bachelor, she got out of an abusive relationship. Hard to know what exactly that means. Hard to know if she still has residual effects from that trauma.
I've done a lot of therapy. I'm ready for this.
She's done a lot of therapy. That is fantastic to hear. As a lot of you know, when I watch these shows, I'm saying, you know, there's a professional out there that can help you with a lot of these things. And she's gone to a lot of therapy. That's fantastic.
And my dad, I know, would just be so proud. He was somebody who always wanted me to just follow my heart. I couldn't be more proud to have a dad like him, to set an example of what a real man is and how a real man treats women. All
right, so more data in terms of her schemas, that she lost her father, it sounds like, and she uses him, her father, as a template of what a real man is and what a man is like in terms of treating a woman right in her mind. Who knows what exactly that means? Who knows what that reflects in terms of her previous experiences? Let's continue watching.
Right now, it seems pretty fun-loving. Everybody's kind of getting to know each other.
Male grooming specialist. Wide variety of occupations listed for these fellas. Male grooming specialist. So there's male grooming, like your facial hair and other areas. We all know about that. And then he's a specialist. Does that mean that he does it, or that he teaches other, or he's just very knowledgeable about that? I have questions.
Oh.
First off, you look absolutely stunning.
All right, so he's showing up in a straitjacket, which I'm guessing is a joke about people who are crazy or insane, which as a mental health professional, I'm not happy about this stigmatizing costume he has.
So it's been 128 days since I was first supposed to meet you. And so clearly I've gone a little crazy during that time.
So he is exploiting a whole group of people who are already exploited for a cheap joke about how during the coronavirus he has been cooped up and been lonely and wanting to talk with her. Joke didn't even really go over that well, and yeah, I'm not happy about this this joke. I get it. Most people don't understand how this would be offensive. So what are you going to do? I guess we should just blame our society for not raising awareness that people with mental conditions are already stigmatized. And by the way, research shows that at a minimum, 50% of Americans will suffer from a DSM diagnosis at some point in their life. So half of everyone will pass a threshold at some point in their life, if not multiple times, of qualifying for a condition in the DSM. And there's a whole other set of people beyond that who get close to the threshold but don't actually cross that threshold. So I would venture to say everyone that I know clinically and personally are on at least some spectrum regarding DSM or, mental conditions, mental disorders. So it's such a normal thing. Why do we? But even if it wasn't that normal, why would we stigmatize it? So it's just unfortunate to see.
And I would not be in the straitjacket if I wasn't dedicated to Claire.
I would not be in this straitjacket if I wasn't dedicated to Claire. What does that even mean?
Come on over.
I'm ready. You look beautiful.
You look very
We have our third former pro football player. This is great. Maybe they'll play a game together. That'll be fun.
I knew it. I definitely feel like I just met my husband.
Okay, so she seems to be having a physiological reaction to meeting this fella, and she feels like maybe she just met the one. Love at first sight, that sort of thing. It happens. Love is a magical thing that you can't quantify. Scientists have tried to quantify it. We've tried to predict it, and we've failed. What a wonderful thing scientists could provide people if we could predict who would fall in love and who wouldn't, who would be a good match for each other moving forward and who wouldn't. But there is research on it, and I can talk about it for a long time. You can listen to my long deep dive on scientific matchmaking. You can listen to that episode. It's an audio episode. So there's research and there's data, but we are still not good at predicting who will fall in love and who will sustain a relationship. There's just a lot of unknowns. There's just a lot of factors that you just can't predict that are going to happen. And for her, she just had that electric moment. It seems like you feel like a physical reactivity that she's having. I don't know if she's about to cry or about to scream or run to him and want to be with him, or I think most of us have had that electric moment, chemistry moment, if you will. And so she's having it right now. My question is, does this happen sometimes because there are 30 dudes and presumably they need to go through a whole season of slowly weeding out and refining her decision? What if she decides on the first day, at the first moment, nope, that's the one. You can send the other 29 home. That's the one. Don't waste my time. Does that ever happen on this show? It's interesting. Now, the other question I have is, she has talked about how she hasn't had much good luck or a good life regarding her love life. And maybe there's something about her projective identification, her own attachment injuries, her own traumas that lead her to be attracted to people who aren't ultimately compatible with her and leave her feeling like, oh, that was another jerk to add to the pile of jerks I've dated in the past. I don't know. But that'll be something we'll explore as we move forward if we get any data along those lines. Is this love at first sight, electrical chemistry moment, is this ultimately in service of her needs and her goals in life, or is it counter to that? Because I think most of us can recall moments in our lives or people around us lives that they are attracted to the wrong people sometimes. So let's continue watching.
Oh my God. I'm shaking.
So why do we have this reaction? Hard to know. We seem to have evolved a physiological response when we fall in love. It's a signal to the body that something just happened, and that might be the one. We have seemingly evolved to couple with other people for procreation reasons, attachment reasons, sharing of resources, protecting each other, these kinds of things. Makes sense, right? Other species have similar compulsions and similar emotional mechanisms to compel coupling. And one of them, seemingly, is this electrical chemistry. You know, she seems like she's losing her breath. Maybe her heart is pounding. She has seemingly some hyperactivity, like she wants to do something with her body. She might be flushed right now. This is a signal to her that a mate has has crossed her path, and go for it, because you want it. Sometimes researchers will frame the infatuation love responses similar to that of cocaine addiction, the impulse to go for it, the compulsion of all-encompassing preoccupation with, I need that person in my life. I need that person to pay attention to me. I need that person, and I need to touch that person. I need that person to touch me. I need us to talk and stare into each other's eyes and plan for the future. So we seemingly have that physiological response that helps facilitate falling in love and bonding. So she seems to be having that reaction right now. Let's continue watching.
Did you say you think you may have just met your husband?
Yeah. Every other guy I felt confident with. But with Dale, everything else went dark around me. I felt everything that I haven't felt ever.
So I can't imagine the producers of this show are happy about this result. I'm guessing the happiest result they would have is if the Bachelorette is like, wow, a lot of great options there. I'm sure my husband is in there somewhere. I'm leaning towards, maybe 15 out of 30 seemed a little bit more preferential to the other 15, but you know what? Let's string this out for however many episodes and let's find out together, audience and me and the producers. I can't imagine the producers are like, wait, what? Yeah. Yay, she just decided on the first, within a half hour of the first episode. So now the audience is going to watch this and say, well, why watch the rest of the season? We already know what's going to happen. She's going to slowly weed out and she's just going to go through the rigmarole of having to do all the ceremonies of this TV show. But ultimately in her mind, she's already made a choice. So there's no suspense. And this fella, the host of the show, who was in the other one that I watched too, the musician Bachelor show, is, I'm guessing, a little sort of worried about this. Let's continue watching.
I felt it. I just know. I'm 39. These things. I know what I want.
Okay, so a little bit more data. There's nothing wrong with love at first sight. There's nothing wrong with saying yes out of the 30. If you went on a speed dating situation and you met 30 different men, and you were like, oh no, there was one where I definitely felt a connection and all the other ones can drop off the face of the earth. I don't care. That one is the one. That would be actually a good result, right? You would say, great, you hit it off with someone. Let's see what happens. But we wouldn't say that that's a predictor of success to, moving forward. We would say it's a predictor of success of first or second date maybe, but definitely not moving forward. I think most of us can relate to the notion that we might have an initial infatuation with someone that didn't work out in the end for various reasons that we learned later after the infatuation, particularly after it started to wear off. But she seems to be 100% sure, which is her right to do, of course. I'm sure the show isn't happy about it, though.
I know when I feel that feeling.
There's more to come.
When Dale stepped out of the limo, it took my breath away.
Right, so that's part of that response.
Your husband may be in that room.
I think my husband is in that room. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I want, and it's not a bad thing.
So I don't know if that was purposeful, but this guy was saying, he was trying to reframe it. This is actually something that therapists will do sometimes. It's taking something that the client is saying and reframing it in a way that you think is going to be helpful as a therapist. So if a client were to say something like, I'm just an utter failure. I just cannot seem to find love. I just am such a failure when it comes to love. So you might reframe that and say something like, so you've had a really hard time finding the right one. Okay, so you're essentially saying something that's similar, but it's framed in a different way. The client is framing it, I'm a failure. The therapist frames it, you haven't found the right one yet. Now you have to be careful with that as therapists because you don't want to invalidate people. You don't want to push things too fast. And you have to be clear that as to the reasons therapeutically why you're doing that, that you're not just avoiding your own anxiety as a therapist, which can happen sometimes. Therapists will have anxiety like, oh my God, my client is suffering. I need to take that away from them and trick them into believing something positive that sometimes is not therapeutic. But he just tried to do that. Instead of saying, you just said that you found your husband already. That's not what he said. He said, you're telling me that your husband may be in that room over there. That's a different reframe, right? It's like, maybe he's the one, but also maybe another one is one. So, maybe your husband is in that room over there. And she's like, no, I just told you I know my husband and I know which one it is. So, yeah, I just can't imagine. What are the producers going to do? Now, what I'm guessing, I'm always thinking these sorts of things is, and I have no idea, but I would guess the producers are like, well, let's try to match her up with some other people. Maybe we could sort of encourage a little bit of potential chemistry with some other guys, give her a little bit of ambivalence around this Dale guy, and maybe we can string out a whole season. Eventually she'll pick Dale, which will be fine, but we need some kind of drama there. It would be a boring show if it's just like, well, every episode she's like, nope, that's the one. I've already decided, by the way. Sorry, other fella, like, you're not the one. Dale's the one. I decided first day, so there's really no point in you being here. I can't imagine that happening because, the one thing is that Clare, this woman, she's been on 3 other seasons of this show, Bachelor, and she knows the deal. She, I'm sure, understands, look, I need to string this out. I got to play the game. So maybe she'll figure that out and say like, okay, well, I know that I can't just decide because that'll ruin the whole show. So I'll play along, and in the end, I'll eventually pick Dale. But I need to be nice to the producers and these other men. So I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. Let's continue watching.
If necessary, I'll play that card to protect Claire.
So coming into this, I was in a weird position to find out some stuff about Joseph.
Interesting. So the guy from West Virginia is saying that he knows something about this dude that might be of interest to Claire. This dude, I didn't show the clip, I don't think, says that he knows that he is going to win her heart and he's going to get the rose today. He's very confident in that.
A lot of being reckless on Instagram and just flirting with girls where I'm from and who know me and her mutual friends.
What's the accusation? That the guy was flirting with women on Instagram? What's wrong with that? Like, oh, he's flirting with what? It's okay if he's single and he's flirting with people. Like, what's the problem? Maybe he'll fill us in.
Joseph, if you're not here for the right reason, it's going to come to the light quickly.
Right, that's what I thought. This show, or I don't know, our culture tends to lean in that direction of, if a guy has a lot of flirtatious energy going in a lot of different directions, that indicates that he's not a good match, that he isn't a monogamous-oriented person. That is, the data just isn't there on that. Meaning that you can be very flirtatious, you can date a lot of different people, as long as you're not being unethical or lying to anyone, and then you can fall in love and want to spend the rest of your life with one person. And the opposite can be true as well, in that you can be a very buttoned up person regarding dating, meaning that you only flirt with one person at a time and you date that person and then you break up and you wait 6 months and then you flirt with one more person and then you date that person for a while. And that person could get married and cheat on you. So that factor is not a guide on whether or not someone is a good match for someone. At least that's what I hear this guy is saying. It's a common cultural heuristic, essentially. People will, because they're trying to make order out of chaos, they'll look for heuristic, meaning like a shortcut. They'll look for certain markers that will help them to put order into the world. And one of the things that we will do is we will look for, well, if a guy is flirting with a lot of different women online, that must mean I can predict his future behavior, meaning that he is not a good monogamous match for anybody. But the data just isn't there. I haven't looked at the research recently, but there could be some studies that show some association there, but from my memory of the research, if anything, it's very, very minor. So let's continue watching.
A girl, and she messages me, through a mutual friend, and she contacts me and she says, guys on the show are DMing me or talking to me.
All right, a little bit more detail there. That during the show, meaning that after Yosef, I think his name is, the guy on the left, after he already committed to being on the show and wanting essentially to be with Claire, this other guy from West Virginia is saying that he heard from a friend that this guy was flirting with her on Instagram. So I guess, it's not as if he was flirting prior to the thing, but I don't know. What do I think of that? Because the coronavirus threw a wrench in this whole, I didn't show those clips, but they were supposed to shoot the show a long time ago, but then the coronavirus happened, and so they had to postpone everything. And then all of them had to go to this hotel, essentially, to quarantine themselves so that all of them could test negative so that they could actually shoot the show with them in person. And so during that time, they were isolated in these hotel rooms, blah, blah, blah. And so he, I guess during that time, was flirting with people online. Does that mean that he is a terrible human being and a bad match? I don't see that, but let's continue watching.
I don't remember that. I came into tonight trying to give you the benefit of the doubt and not just immediately come to it or take it to Claire.
Right. There's a lot of possibilities here. One is that this fella's friend is misinterpreting the other guy's discussions on Instagram as flirtatious when it wasn't. Who knows? It's also notable that this guy was saying to the other people that this other guy was flirting with a lot of people on Instagram when it was just one person. So it's interesting.
It was a video that had been sent. Hi, good morning, beautiful. Hope you have a good day. And again, I told him.
Did you do that?
So 2 thumbs up to Claire. I don't know if I showed all the clips, but this guy came to Claire and said, I just want to clear something up. I feel like this other guy is talking crap about me. And then Claire immediately said, what? Let's bring Tyler over. Let's talk about it, which is a lot easier to work something out because then you're not like having all these side conversations. Let's just talk it out. Let's have everyone involved in the same room. And then she asked Tyler, what did you see exactly? And then he says what he heard. Then she turns to this guy and says, like, is that what happened? This is good. Hopefully they can work it out.
Do I have a girlfriend? No.
Do you have a girl that thinks she's your girlfriend?
No. No, none whatsoever.
Is there going to be a girl pulling up saying, I need to talk to you?
No, not at all.
So this show, it's so tense for me watching because it's such a weird position to put in. This guy who, I have to say, not this guy, but the other guy, Yosef, I think his name is, doesn't come across as the most likable fella for me personally, but, maybe for Claire, he's a likable fella. But it puts him in this position of having to defend himself that I guess what he has to say is, no, Claire, from the minute I heard I was going to be on this show, you have been the only focus of all my romantic life, even though I know my chance of you picking me is basically 0. 1 out of 30, what percentage chance? That's like 3.5% or something. So even though I know I have a 3.5% chance, is that right? 3.5%? Yeah. I have a 3.5% chance of you actually reciprocating my feelings for you. You are the only one for me. Like, that's what he's supposed to convince. I mean, can't we all just say, like, well, these guys are hoping to be the one, but they should also be hoping, like, well, am I going to want her? Because all the guys up until this point have basically been communicating like they are 100% sure that Claire is the one for them. How do they know that? How does anyone know that they're a good compatible match until they actually start interacting with each other? So the fact that this guy flirted with someone online, is that really such a transgression? I mean, they're treating it like he cheated on her. I don't know if I would categorize it that way.
I'd be very mad at the end of the night if I don't get any time with Claire because of some drama happening between other guys.
I will say that 2 thumbs up to the show that she is 39, I believe, and the range of men are late 20s to late 30s. And in other situations, we pathologize or stigmatize this, that a woman 39 would date or marry a 28-year-old guy. There must be something wrong with the guy. Why would he must have mother issues or something. She's a cougar who just wants to control a younger guy. She wants a trophy husband, or these kinds of sayings. Whereas the reverse, we're a lot more apologetic to that. If you have a 40-year-old guy and a 30-year-old woman, we might pathologize that as well, but not as much, I guess I would say. So kudos to the show for not having a bunch of, because if we followed cultural and stigma lines, all the men would be 10 years, with her age and older. But it looks like all the men are her age and younger. So, it's good. We need to break stigma. We need to allow for flexibility in life. And this is good.
I don't want to keep this going, but I know you guys probably have some words to talk out yourself. I have some things to think about.
Absolutely.
So do what you got to do. I'm going to continue chatting.
She is really good at this show. The diplomacy skills that she has. I mean, because I'm just thinking, what would I do in a situation like that? I guess I would just feel tense and want them to get along. And she just says, you know what? Looks like the two of you have some stuff to talk about. I have other men to talk to. Let's move on. She's very nice about it.
Roast tonight. I'm literally in my head that I'm going home.
That guy was a boy band manager. Boy band manager. Got questions about that one too. It sounds like a fun job, I guess. But what does it mean? Like amateur boy bands, or is he like NSYNC's manager? I don't know. What are the common boy bands of today? I'm old. I don't know.
Every hoop that you guys had to jump through to get here.
That dude is still wearing the straitjacket. Send him home.
To love you guys.
All right. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle, the end of episode 1, The Bachelorette. A lot of you have been asking that I watch this show when it comes on, and I've been curious as to what this show is like, and I feel like I just got a good taste of what the rest of the season will hold. I wonder how they're going to manage the fact that she seems to have already decided who she wants to marry. I guess we'll find out together. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.